If you watched my last video on Larry Hoover, I mentioned his partner David Barksdale. I wanted to talk about him because he was one of the few gang leaders that actually made a positive change. Donna's David Barksdale was born in Salis, Mississippi on May 24, 1947, to Charlie and Virginia Barksdale, who were sharecroppers. Barksdale grew up in a big family as he was one of 13 children. When David was around 10, his father was chased away from Salis because of conflict with a white man and fled to Chicago to keep his life. He went there first and sent for the family when he saved up enough money. Barksdale's childhood was way less than stellar, and his family experienced extreme poverty and was eventually displaced due to urban renewal. And if you guys don't know what urban renewal is and how catastrophic it was to the Black community, I'm not going to get into it on this video, but I did a video on it a few months back and we'll link it at the end. It was just one of the many not talked about things that was utterly devastating to our community. After moving to the south side of Chicago, David became involved in gangs by age 13 and was kicked out at 14 by his father for being disobedient, which furthered his involvement with the gangs. He was arrested multiple times but wasn't charged with any felonies during his son. Racially motivated attacks grew in the area, and Barksdale got together with friends to form the 65th Street Boys once they realized the politicians weren't going to help. Sometime later, he formed the Devil's Disciples, and it was composed of 13 to 17-year-olds. The gang ended up with multiple gang wars with both white and black gangs like the Blackstone Rangers. They eventually led to the gang gaining more power and recognition and changed their name to the Black Disciples. With this reputation, it brought fear, but it also emboldened those who wanted to take him down. Barksdale was shot outside of a bar that he frequented, allegedly by a group of teens affiliated with the Blackstone Rangers. This completely changed his outlook on life, as near-death experiences has a way of doing that. He shifted his efforts of being a part of the problem to being a part of the solution. He started fighting against gang violence and made truces with rival gangs. He partnered with Larry Hoover to merge the two gangs and created the Black Gangster Disciple Nation. They tried to add the Blackstone Rangers, but it just didn't happen. He didn't let that stop him and continued to be an activist and became known as King David. The gang provided health clinics and free meal programs for the youth in Inglewood. He was also friends with Fred Hampton of the Black Panther Party and helped to organize protests against police brutality and racial discrimination. He and the gang even protected Dr. King in a march in 1966. Barksdale did eventually pass away from kidney failure on September 2, 1974, as a result of the shooting from a few years earlier. After his death, the Black Disciples were lost without his leadership, and the old ways of the gang came rushing back. Old rivalries found their way to the surface, and people who wanted to assume leadership were also a problem. The gang eventually ended up in the two factions we know today, the Black Disciples and the Gangster Disciples. A lot of violence ensued after the split until Mickey Bull took control and unified them. That peace didn't last long, as Bull was murdered by some GD members in 1991. So all of the hard work King David didn't really mean anything, which kind of makes sense, as it most likely would have been in his best interest to form another organization strictly for activism instead of trying to turn an established gang into one. It was bound not to last. At least if he started something new, he could have found like-minded individuals who would have kept his dream alive after his death, and the gang members who agreed could have followed suit. So it's just unfortunate there. Before I move on to my final thoughts, I do want to say I'm not sure that his father kicking him out was the right move there, because as we can see with the changes he made at the end of his life, he just needed a little time, and he probably could have gotten there a little quicker and without all of the violence with the support of his family. I can only imagine how traumatic everything was for the family, seeing their husband and father get chased out of their hometown, and then them having to be uprooted from their home to a completely foreign place with promises of a better life, only to face more racism and hardships. I'm sure it caused a lot of emotions, especially for the male kids, because I'm sure they saw their father as someone who was strong and won't ever lose, so seeing him kind of tuck tail and run could have destroyed that view and respect. That's just an unfortunate and unrealistic view of men in society. Having to be Superman with all of the answers, parents tend to think that kids don't understand situations and that it won't affect them when it does. So I think his father recognizing that and telling him, hey, sometimes the strongest thing you can do is walk away to live another day and be here for your family. Then explaining to him how it would have been a lot worse if he was gone. I think that could have been beneficial. A lot of parents can influence and help their kids by simply having an honest conversation with them instead of pretending like things didn't happen. Because to me, it seems like Barksdale was constantly trying to prove he was strong in his actions. I do commend him for trying to change his life after recognizing that he was a problem in our community. Most people think that just because they're criminals, they don't care. which is far from the truth. Most people engage in criminal activity for survival, especially in lower income areas. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe.